Everybody, welcome back live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope you're all doing well out there. Very excited for today's show here. It is we're back in the post-Thanksgiving swing of things as we approach the holidays. And return guest to the show, Lucas Rosa in the house, mixed martial artist. He's got a fight coming up in 2 days up in Vermont, which is very exciting. Lucas calls Seabrook home, right? Yep. So, actually, very funny. You walked in here with a name tag. Can we start with this? Go ahead, show the thing.
I came with the Seabrook Middle School name tag. My dad had me come down and...
Let me see it real quick.
Yeah. I went to one of the classes I used to go to when I was younger, and did a talk and kind of just talking to them about
That's awesome. You got the visitor pass.
Yeah, exactly. The visitor pass versus Sherwood.
That is fantastic. Hopefully you saw that. I enjoyed that when you walked in.
Yeah.
You said I should probably take this off. I said I think I'm going to have to talk about that.
Oh, good.
What do the kids ask you?
Oh no, they didn't ask me too much. So I just came in because I was rushing to get here, but I came in to kind of talk to them about the importance of believing in yourself, goal setting, and then also one of the things that kind of catapulted me into MMA was getting a Watson Fellowship and academic grant where I traveled around the world and studied mixed martial arts for a while, and that was purely academic. And so I kind of told them, the academic stuff is important even if you think it's not what you're going to end up doing. The academic stuff catapulted me to this totally other career that is what I love to do. So.
I know they seem like extremes, but not so much.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Not so to me, not so much.
So you spend a lot of time training down south, right? I mean, you bounce around. Is it Florida? Florida's like a big training base for MMA fighters.
So I would say it's like the mecca of MMA down there. I'd say there's spots in California, New Mexico, a little bit in Milwaukee, and a little in Boston, but South Florida is really where you want to be if you're trying to become the best in the world. And so that's my goal. And so
why is that? Is that the warm weather just easier on the body, or
I think honestly it's I think that's kind of where a lot of jiu-jitsu kind of transported from Brazil to Florida at that point.
Oh,
and then
gotcha.
That's kind of where the MMA movement sort of started. There's a lot of really big gyms there, but I like the gym I'm at because I get a little more individual training and still get the high level from my high level coaches like Matt Waggy, my brother Charles McCarthy, UFC fighter,
who's doing great still too, right?
Oh, yeah, brother,
Yeah, I saw he submitted somebody at Foxwoods, was it recently?
He won a title at Foxwoods. We actually fought on the same night, which was incredible. And then he actually recently fought in Biloxi, Mississippi, and won a bare knuckle MMA fight, which was a really big deal on Game Bred MC. So he's killing it right now.
Yeah, do you guys just coach each other? Do you switch out?
I remember after my fight, that was actually pretty interesting. I had to go corner him right after, and I was more nervous for his fight than I was for him.
Is that right?
Yeah, because it's you have no control over it as much. But yeah, I've been in his corner the past 3 or 4 fights, which has been a cool transition from being sort of the younger brother to now I help him. So.
Oh man, that just made me think of your parents and your family. You guys get more nervous for each other's fight. They must be. They have to really go through it.
Yeah, no, they do. Yeah, I feel bad. My sister is the one. And it's cool because I'll be fighting up in Vermont where my sister Teresa lives, but she's always the one who out of everyone gets the most crazy. I hear her yell kill him. Oh God,
it's out of body experiences.
Completely. And she's more. She's very peaceful and does organic farming and equestrian stuff. So it's kind of a switch.
So her real life is that, and then she gets in there and it's wild.
Exactly,
it makes complete sense. All right, so you get Matt Denning here in 2 nights, which I know you told me you've never met him, you don't know him, but you know a little bit of. Obviously, you do some tape work, right?
Yeah, of course. So, I believe in a lot of film and stuff, but I've seen him fight up in New England a couple times, not personally, but seen the film, and I know a lot of the guys that he's ended up fighting and stuff, and so he'll be a real challenge. He's, this is a little bit of a step up. My first 4 pro fights, I fought some really tough guys. I fought a guy with 2 pro wins in my 3rd fight, who after he fought me went and did really well in bare knuckle and even hurt somebody's orbital and stuff. So I've fought when people see me go, they see me win and within a minute. All 4 of my first fights have been submission finishes or TKOs in the first minute of the fight, which is really unusual. And it's been from May to whatever it is now. So it's been about 5 months and I've had 4 pro wins, which is very, very unusual pace. But so people come and think that it's you're destroying these guys, they must not be good, but it's no, these guys I'm fighting are real professional monsters, and this guy is a real step up too. He's has 8 pro wins. He's veteran of the sport, and had a lot of fights even before as an amateur. So over probably has more fights than I do, and I had 17 amateur fights in my career. So
yeah. So he looks at you, though. I mean, obviously, I don't think. Is it fair to say if you're in this line of work, you really don't take anybody lightly because everybody's dangerous?
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, I mean, as a pro, especially, MMA is one of those sports where everything's so unpredictable that you always have to be on guard. Yeah.
4-0 for you. So, I mean, you couldn't have drawn up a better start.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Of course.
What's the, is it, like, if you were to say you get to either knock them out or submit them so early in all these fights, if it were to be more of a 3-round, 15-minute just battle, would you do you take more time off in between fights? Does the quick fights allow you to kind of get back, my body's in pretty good shape, I can get back in there pretty soon?
Well, yeah, that's why we have a saying, like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready, and, that's one of the things we kind of, like, preach, and I think, I've fought, if I win this fight, that'll be 5 wins within 7-month span, which is... That's crazy. Crazy. I mean, I don't know, the only one that I know of that's done that, like, is John Jones. I think he did a similar type, like, pace in the beginning, but, 5 fights in that amount of time is pretty nuts. But
so you're challenging John Jones right now?
Yeah. But I mean, to answer your question, some of those tougher fights, I challenged myself a little bit more as an amateur. I think the last time I talked to you was maybe over a year ago in May.
Yep.
And I was kind of on the same sort of string. I had like 4 fights in maybe like a 6-month span, just because it was, I felt like I really wanted to finish out my amateur career strong. And I had a really tough fight. My last fight was I fought the #1 guy from Alabama in Birmingham.
Wow.
So I went to, and he was the #1 ranked in Alabama, Louisiana. Went down to Alabama to fight him, and I remember walking out and getting booed. And
oh my goodness!
It was a tough fight, but
hostile environment.
I remember I walked into the ring, and I was I get in a different mindset when I'm in the ring, and I was like saying all this stuff to him, before the fight started, like stomping back and forth, and the ref comes up to me and he says, you swore 2 times already. You swear one more time, I'm gonna start deducting points from you. Which I don't know if that's allowed, but I was like, all right,
swearing? Really?
Yeah, I know exactly. I'm like, you letting me elbow the kid, but like I can't swear, like what? And so it was very interesting. Like I tell him like, we're in the manners over morals right now. Like we gotta be tepid with
it. Is something, because every time I see you, it's like you are just the laid back, mild mannered, and it's a switch, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think like a lot of people, they see me come out and they would describe me as like sort of almost a split personality. I look angry,
when you walk out of the tunnel.
When I walk out into the tunnel and walk into the cage, I have a very different, like they see me screaming, I'm like, it's my time, and I think it definitely comes off as rage, but I think it's also like it's sort of a mix of like every emotion. It's like the happiness I feel for like being there, the pride I feel, like acknowledging all the sacrifice that I made. So it's sort of a mixture of every emotion that I think like comes out as like the opposite of apathy, and that kind of for me looks like rage, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah. So
it's just, it's how you get yourself ready to go. Is there anything better than going into a place like that? You're down south, you're on somebody else's home territory, and just shutting up the whole crowd?
Oh, I mean, it's like that was really that was a different experience, I'd say, for sure. And I mean, there is something going in there, like it gives a different sort of electric intensity to it.
Sure.
I will say that like some of my favorite fights have been like winning at like the Boston Encore and winning in like Foxwoods with my brother, just because like being able, I remember before the Foxwoods fight, it was a super crowded locker room, and they just had this big screen of like the entire fans and stuff, and I remember I just glanced at it 1 second. It just had all these people lined up that had the Team Rosa shirts on that I just like made and started selling, and they were very brightly colored. And there's something about that I'm like, wow, like I'm here, and like there are so many people supporting me. Like I remember people from the Foxwoods Casino coming up and asking me like, what is that shirt you're wearing? Like, is that a company or something? Like I've seen so many of those shirts, and I'm like, oh, Lucas Rosa, that's me. So there was something about that too. Like I remember even after the Boston Encore, I walked out in like a green green hoodie, like Boston Bruins Celtics hoodie on St. Patrick's Day that was my older brother's and stuff. And so that those kinds of like moments of like sort of full circle are really interesting to me. Yeah.
Sure. What's that? How is Matt from up there? Is this you going into his?
Yeah.
territory?
So he's originally from Maine, but now he lives in West Virginia. So
okay.
Yeah. So like,
but you're
he's
two
traveling
New
every-
England ties.
Yeah. Exactly.
So they have some equal probably support. I would imagine.
Exactly. I mean, I know that like my fan base is very crazy,
Yeah.
so very intense. So, but Vermont's a little bit away, but it's I think it'll be a really electric crowd. And it's Donnybrook Fight Promotions is what it's called, and it's going to be in Bear, Vermont. So
Is it me, or it seems like the sport has just taken off in ways that it's grabbed casual sports fans. I don't know if it was because it kind of kept going through the pandemic or what, when a lot of sports shut down, but it seems to me the sport is just at a crazy high level of popularity. Do you guys feel that as fighters? Like this is a growing and growing thing?
Oh yeah, for sure, and that's even part of it too with the fight. Like the level you have to be at, I feel like has gone up and up and up. Like
the competition,
the competition too. Like so, that's how I feel about it. Like as a fighter, but yeah, it is really interesting to see. Like, I think part of it is attributed to like the marketing grow of like jiu-jitsu and then like Muay Thai and stuff. But
sure,
I really have seen that, and I think to me it's always so interesting because you've had like decades, centuries, sometimes like millennia of these martial arts from all these different nations, and it's only within the past really like couple decades that they've decided. They initially were trying to figure out which one was the best,
right,
and now it's only within the past 2 decades that instead they start merging together, and so it's like
use whatever you can.
Yeah, exactly. And then they sort of combine and then like build off each other in really interesting ways because you need grappling, striking, takedowns, and there's tons of different styles from every different culture for each one of those sort of components. So
and you're a grappler, you would classify yourself as, right?
I would say more of a grappler, but yeah, I'm definitely my striking level is starting to get really like high level. And honestly, the same. My brother even won his last fight like pretty much completely on striking and his footwork and stuff. So like it's good to see that progression now too.
How's Charles doing?
He's good. He has he's got engaged recently as
I saw that.
as a baby coming on the way.
And a baby.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yeah, that's going to be my niece. Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Does he ever? Because he obviously he was in the UFC for how many years?
I don't even know. Maybe like 8 or 9.
But I think
he had 15. I think UFC fights, which is
a lot. Yeah. Because last time I talked with you guys, it was right before your North Shore Music Theater fight.
Yeah, in Beverly. Yeah,
that went well.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, no, I won a unanimous decision there. I think I almost pulled off a proving necktie at the end, but the time like ran out like 2 seconds before. I think he was like out unconscious after, but they like couldn't call it because Okay. Yeah, no, it was that was an awesome fight, and I was excited about that, and it was very different atmosphere too. Being like I remember
a Christmas Carol is there right now.
Oh yeah, exactly, exactly. It's like there's normally like symphony music, and I mean there's something about that because I sort of market myself as more of like an intellectual fighter. There was something about that kind of felt like
you were into it.
Yeah, like into it. I felt into it. Like everyone else was like, "Where's the locker rooms?" And me, I was in this like dressing room. I'm like, "This is pretty cool.
This is lovely."
But it was very small too. I remember like my dad was trying to warm up with me, and I was like literally like just in a phone booth, kind of like moving around. But that was really cool. And then I think even after the fight, I saw the big wall of like all the playwrights and like people who had done symphony and stuff, and I was like just standing there. I'm like, well, I just performed here. Am I allowed to like mark this? And nobody really like the guy was like, I don't know. And so I just grabbed the Sharpie and like signed it. Yeah, I signed like King of Monsters, Lucas Rose on there. So to me,
awesome.
I thought that was cool. I don't know if it's still there, but maybe they smudged it off.
I'll go look. I'll have my friend Carrie Nassenbetti is the GM over there.
Sure.
She'll give me a little tour. We'll go find it.
For sure.
That's too funny. That was a great atmosphere.
It was so cool. Yeah, incredible. Yeah.
Fight night at the North Shore Music Theater. I think they enjoyed it too. I talked to a lot of them, and they said, it's a lot different than what they usually do, but it was a great night.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that kind of like, and that's another part of being able to fight this much and so frequently is like all the not just even the traveling, but like the different atmospheres you go to. Like I remember for Rise of a Warrior and Port St. Lucie in Florida, and that was just a completely different atmosphere than even South Florida. And obviously, like, Alabama is a completely different atmosphere, and then up here we're going to, like, intellectual symphony music venue. So
it's
no
crazy.
music theater. So it's very cool. And then Bear, Vermont, I hear is going to be like, it's very different, like almost a more not remote, but like we're up in the woods there, so it'll be very, very interesting.
The crowds will find you. Don't worry.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Again, Lucas Rosa joining us here. He's got a fight Saturday night up in Vermont. He's fighting Matt Denning. Lucas puts his undefeated record on the line here, so very exciting.
Yeah.
A couple amateur questions here for me.
Sure.
It's Peruvian necktie.
Yeah.
Can you demonstrate what that one is? You just mentioned it, and I had to. It sounded so.
So it's something like I do. I mean, me and my brother are pretty good at front headlock. So when I get in front headlock, it's like you basically bring someone down to the ground. You put your leg over their head, and it's sort of you relax so that they don't think anything bad's about to happen.
Oh.
And it's sort of like a trap. They think the leg's there, it's fine, and then once I bring my left leg over their back and sprawl back, and you're basically actually using your hamstring extension. You're not even using your arms, you're extending your hamstrings to then cut off the arteries.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
okay.
And it's a choke. Yeah.
That sounds serious.
Yeah. No, it's a very fancy. Like, I mean, that's the thing is I do a lot of really high level grappling with my coaches, Matt Waggy, Charles McCarthy. I do a lot of privates with him. So like we kind of train like some people do a lot of like flowy jujitsu, and not that gi jujitsu is any issue, but we kind of train very like violent jujitsu, which is
he smiles as he says it.
Yeah, but it's it's more like built towards the competition in MMA, which I like.
Do you? I'm sure you did when you were certainly younger. Do you still scrap with your brother?
Oh, Charles. Yeah, no, we train together. We don't like fight anymore. But
never.
I'll keep that between us. But no, we it's good. Like in the gym, he's always constantly helping me, and it's.
I see he's got a bit more experience than you. As far as,
no, for sure.
How much older?
So he's actually 9.5 years old.
Is he really?
Yeah, which
wow.
is, people don't think. I mean, we have very young genetics. I think I get mistaken for being like in my young 20s a lot.
He looks great.
Yeah, and he's
not that you don't.
No,
but
I know for sure. Exactly. No, like for our age, I think we peak at different times than other people.
Is he looking to go back to the UFC, or is he just kind of paving his own way right now?
He's kind of paving his own way. I mean, he's dominated the regional scene right now, and then I think he has this real opportunity with Gamebred to be, I think, like one of the only bare knuckle MMA champion his next fight, maybe. So
that was the other question I had. So bare knuckle, you're taking the gloves off. It's just what it sounds.
I mean, and so like I don't know that I would ever do bare knuckle boxing, because it's just I've seen what happens.
It's dangerous.
It leaves a real mark. Like it really leaves a mark. And with Charles, he liked the MMA component better, because he's like, well, you can use your footwork a little bit differently because of the kickboxing aspect, and then you can also take people down and grapple, and we have really strong grips, but like sometimes gloves get a little bit in the way of that. So the bare hand grips is a little bit easier for us.
Understood. Okay, so that would help in that regard.
Yep.
That's fascinating.
Yep.
You can learn so much just talking to you. I could do this all day. Because I've become a fan too. I'm one of those pandemic guys. I kind of picked it up in the pandemic. There's no other sports, and I was like, all right, let's see if I can get my way into this. And I could. It's action packed. I'll tell you that much.
For sure. And that's one of the things about MMA too, is because of how many different martial arts there are. Like the stylistic matchups never end. So that's like there's so many different ways.
You know what it reminds me of more than anything?
What?
Any sport, which this is going to probably blow your mind a little bit, or maybe not. Tennis.
Tennis, really?
Because it's like I play tennis, right?
Yeah.
And it's I tell people all the time, it's like how can the number 5 person in the world lose to the number 250th? I said, well, one is a fine line. Competition's huge at the pro level, but also it's matchups.
Yeah,
if everybody plays. There's a million different ways to get a tennis point played, and I imagine that fighters have all these different skills too. So when you have all these different matchups, that's how it works. You can on any given day, you can find a different route to get there, and it reminds me of tennis for some reason in that regard.
Yeah, the stylistic. That's a huge thing in MMA, the stylistic matchups, and just I mean the thing about MMA, because everyone always asks me like, do you get nervous before it? I'm like, of course I do. It's such an unpredictable sport, like more than any other sport in that regard. And it's not like in football you step out of bounds, it's okay, the maybe you didn't like get as many yards as you're supposed to. If you make the wrong step in MMA, your night's over.
Right.
And it's like serious business. Now.
Do you know that feeling even from training?
Yeah. I mean, a little bit. I mean, in training, you try to pick safe partners and stuff, and that's why I have my coaches and my brother and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in the fights, you know that going in, and that's there's that. Anyone who says they're not scared to go in the fight is lying, for sure. I mean, there's a fear in there, but to me, what takes away the fear is the preparation. Like I know if I've prepared as much as possible, it's just time to go out there and perform.
Who's there's another brother tandem here in Massachusetts. He was supposed to fight Cowboy a few years ago. Massachusetts kid, Central Mass. He's been on the show before. Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. I'll get it. I'll look it up as we go. No but it's funny because I was thinking there's a video of them. Let me look it up here as we go, because I'll feel bad if I don't. It's been so long. It's been
terrible with names.
I'm sure you know him. I know the MMA landscape is huge. Let me see if I can. Come on, where is it? I know I get it in the phone. I told you I was going to keep my phone off here because it rang by accident. There it is, Joe Lozon.
Oh yeah, Lozon.
Or Lozon.
Lozon.
So he's got a younger brother too. And do you know where I'm going with this? The video?
Oh, I'm not sure.
They have a video of the two brothers like at a family party, like a holiday. I don't know if it was Thanksgiving or what. Yeah. But the little brother was just yapping, and I think he's a pro or at least an amateur. He's a fighter. And Joe's looking at him like,
oh come on, dude.
And so they go in the front yard and legit, like it's people have lawn chairs out there, and they go.
Oh wow!
Like Joe Lozon, his brother. I don't know what the brother's name, but they are just going. Like nobody's letting up. Oh wow! And Joe like submits him.
Oh wow!
And I think at one point they rolled it back too. So Joe, and Joe holds the submission for too long at one point because he thought he was disrespected. His brother didn't touch his gloves or whatever.
Oh,
so it was wild. So that's why that's what I was thinking of when I was thinking of the brotherly rivalry.
No.
You guys don't have that.
No, we don't. No, I mean, we get on each other's nerves a little, but it's not like that. We're really close, and it's one of those things where people always. It's actually strange. Like no matter when we're always together, people always ask us. Like, who would win in a fight? And I'm like, no, don't ask me that question. Like, we're never gonna fight. Don't worry.
You don't even answer it.
Yeah, I don't answer. I'm like, don't.
He's a handful though.
Isn't he? No, it's funny you mentioned Lozon too. He actually commentated my fight.
Oh, did he?
And North Shore Music.
Oh, the Beverly that night? No kidding.
Yeah, it's a tight knit. New Englanders are tough. So there's a lot of.
He's a tough guy too. He was kind of bigger before I kind of got into MMA.
He was many Fight of the Nights.
I was watching a bunch of his highlights, and that was Joe Lozon. Nobody to mess around with, right?
Guy,
and it's funny because he's involved in everything too. It doesn't surprise me that he was calling your fight. So he tell you, he give you he like your work?
Yeah. I think so.
He's like, you should have. It was a nice win. Again, Lucas Rosa joining us here. Big fight Saturday night up in Vermont. How many fights on this card do you know?
I believe I'm not sure. I think there's at least 4 pro fights, which is high level, and then I think maybe 6 or 7 amateur fights.
Okay, that's kind of the undercard they call it. Yep. All right. Battle and bar. I like it.
Battle and bar.
Catchy.
Yep.
Well, that's exciting. So what you mentioned a little bit about not being nervous, but like you turn into like a different guy.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's because like I know I've done the preparation in a way.
Sure.
Like
do you always turn into the same person in the cage? Like you say, you kind of you lose yourself, you swear, you do whatever.
Yeah.
But is it always that way, or just sometimes like you're like, I'm in kind of I'm a little more relaxed tonight or something?
No,
I don't know.
I mean, it's always the same.
It's always the same.
The monster or whatever.
The monster.
Kind of comes out. My fight name is King of Monsters because when I was younger, I used to like love Godzilla and wrote book on cryptids and stuff. But
you told me it could have been something else.
Yeah.
The Whisperer, was it?
Oh, no, yeah. So my coaches tried to make it the Boston Whisperer. Actually, one of my coaches, I shouldn't even say this, but one of my coaches tried to make it called the Ugly Baby, which he's like, I don't know why. I don't know why. I was like, he's like, you would get a lot of notoriety, and I'm like, I guess, but I'm not doing that. But no, eventually
that's fine. Is he just trying to compliment Charlie? I don't know.
I don't know what it was. But
do you call him Charlie, by the way, or Charles?
Charles. I call him.
You call him Charles? Yeah, he likes Charles. But cool. That's good.
But, I think the only one who calls him Charlie is like Mickey Ward when he's always trying to. So Mickey Ward's a like legend.
Yeah.
You know, they made the Mark Wahlberg
Sure.
movie on him.
From Lowell, right?
Yep, Lowell,
Yeah.
the Pride of Lowell. So
Yeah.
that's what he's called. Yeah, so he's called him Charlie.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm not calling him Charlie.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
going to leave that one for
No,
Mickey
we're
Ward.
good.
Charles Rosa, it is.
Yeah.
That is funny. So what do you think going into this fight? If you had to, what's like a concern's probably the wrong word, but a game plan? Or maybe concern's a good
Yeah,
word. I don't
no
know.
concern. I mean, yeah. So like that's kind of when I look at like when I do my film study on anybody, I'm like, well, what is their avenue to victory? And I know this kid. You know, he's actually a pretty good wrestler, a pretty high level grappler. So I've seen him do a lot of type of like heel hook type stuff. He always starts the fights very strong.
Yeah.
A lot of low kicks, a lot of overhands, and yeah. I mean, he's one of those people who's pretty like well rounded everywhere. So it's like I have to be at that point as well. I'd say he's more of a wrestler grappler than a striker, but that's just because I think he's good at that part. He gets people down really quickly. So
Interesting matchup though, because
Yeah.
you like being down.
yeah. Usually I like the ground game and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's you know, we'll see. It's always that moment you have to kind of feel it out in the fight, and so we'll see.
No matter what the game plan is, things change. Is that kind of
Yeah. Sometimes it's an unpredictable sport, you know, and
Yeah.
you have to be like ready for those moments and like thrive in the chaos. That's, you know, ultimately what makes the best fighters. You know?
So you never go in and say like, I'm going to submit this guy tonight.
Well,
It might be a plan, but you know,
Yeah.
if it's another route.
if it is, it's probably like if I mean, I know probably what I'm gonna do. I don't know if it's something I'd announce on the radio. So that's all I'll say. Yeah.
Very smart,
Yeah.
very smart man, Lucas Rosa. I like that.
Yeah, I'm always trying to think of like, you know. So there's even like the ways that I, you know, because I prepare in certain ways. And my dad's like, oh, you should post that. And actually last night I went and did a little like sparring session with my dad to sort of loosen up. And I was
Tough
in
guy, your dad.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I was in a very small, you know, corner like cage ring with him, you know, in the Salisbury, and he, you know, he's like charger pressure fighting me and stuff, and you know, he's hard to deal with, and he's like, oh, why don't you post that? And I'm like, well, I can't really post like too much of like what I think I'm really gonna do in the fight, like
Yeah.
before my fight, you know. So it's one of those things where like I mean I get a little crazy about that, but
No, I would completely
Maniacal,
understand that.
yeah.
And you're 48 hours out. So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
does that work? So you're here. Thank you for
Yeah.
doing this, by the
Of
way.
course,
48
of course.
hours
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
It's very sweet of you. I know
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
busy. And is the hard work done now? Is this kind of
sort of like
what are the next two?
Yeah,
What's
so-
tomorrow and then fight day?
Yeah, so tonight/tomorrow morning are going to be very tough. That's when you do the weight cut. So like,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
everyone fights at different like weight classes, and usually people cut down using. It's sort of a discipline thing. You cut down like your diet and your hydration in a way, and get down to the weight that like, you know, you're meant to fight at. And if you don't do that, you just end up fighting people with bigger like body frames. So it's sort of,
Sure.
to me, like, I understand why people don't really like the whole weight cutting stuff, but in some ways it's also like a sort of discipline thing. Like, you know, if you're disciplined and do the diet and do it in a healthy way, then
Okay.
you know, day in and day out, then, you know, you get to the weight. It's going to be difficult because, you know, yeah, it's like one of those things. I'm going to be in the sauna like tomorrow morning.
Oh, the
like,
whole
cutting,
thing, huh?
Cutting like a bunch of weight. Luckily, this fight I'm at 155 instead of 145, so it's not quite as bad as normal. But
Okay.
But yeah.
What are you sitting at right now?
Right now it's a little different, but I'd say like if I'm just healthy and
Yeah.
you know, training is, you know, doing what I want and eating what I want, I get to like 173 or 4.
So you could be 170 right now, and trying to drop 15 pounds for.
Well, right now I'd say I'm like probably less than that.
Okay.
But
You've already
yeah.
been working
Yeah, I've been
down towards
working
it.
down, but like
Yeah.
within, I mean, there's usually when I weigh in at 145, I get back up to like 163 or 4
Pretty quickly.
within like 5 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I gain like 19. It's mostly like water, you know, because a gallon of water is.
Oh my
and
God.
Stuff. Yeah, so
It is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy process. I call it because you know I eat a lot of vegetables. I call it a kale jail. You know, the diet because I eat
Yeah.
a lot of kale. So.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is that a you thing? That's
Yeah,
very
yeah,
creative.
Yeah, it's just what I. Yeah, I always send people on Snapchat. I have to try to make it like fun for myself. Otherwise, it's just like a whole
Sure.
process. Fight camps are pretty lonely in a way, and then it goes from like nothing to like I said, I'm everything. Like where I'm going into schools, talking to kids, and seeing everyone I've like ever talked to, sending me messages. So
Sure.
it goes from a very like lonely, like day in day out, like eat, sleep, train, repeat fight camp. Like in South Florida, to then usually my fights are in New England, and it's like everything
spotlight.
at once, everything at once.
Is that like the when you're training? Are you thinking about that though? Like that's going to be so rewarding, seeing all the people there with your shirts on and cheering you, and hometown crowd's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's nothing better than that. I mean, I couldn't even. It's surreal, and that's one of the things. Even like getting in the cage is crazy, but the most surreal thing for me is like when a kid comes up to me and asks me for like an autograph or like, oh, they want a picture or like something like that. It's just I still can't wrap my mind around that. Like I'm like, what? Like that was, I just still feel like a kid. So it's just like to see that I'm like an inspiration for other people, and like that I'm, I have uncles and aunts and like friends of the family who come in. It's like that was the best night I had the whole year. It's like I'm like, wow, like I'm actually like doing something that makes people's day or like makes people's week or more.
What was that phrase you used? That was path to victory. What is that person's path to victory?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're trying to defend it, have you been in trouble in any of these fights where you've had to escape or had to get defensive or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, one of the fight in Alabama, even though I dominated one round, 10-8, which means
this was your simple 3-round fight, right?
3-round fight, yeah. And so 10-8 means that like some of the judges think the fight should have been stopped almost at that point. But so is
that how they rule that? Is that pretty much what they are saying with that? The 10-8.
Yeah.
I know it's dominating, but
I dominated the fight, but honestly, after the fight. Because there was one point, it was the only fight I've ever been taken down in, and what happened is I just did something stupid, and the kid was really strong, so he picked me up and like slammed me.
Sure.
And then after that, I immediately got into mount and won the rest of the fight. And I gave a very articulate post-fight speech, but honestly, after the fight, I didn't know where I was.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I was in Florida, not Alabama, and that sort of thing. And so I've done a lot of neurovisual training and neurology, like training and stuff after that. And so that's become a big part of my training as well after.
What got you think? Was it the...
I think it was the takedown. I think,
so you hit your head?
Maybe. Because the thing is, there wasn't anything in the fight, like striking-wise, that would have been that. And the takedown... It didn't even look like I did anything, and like I said in the case, some people were trying to tell me maybe it was an adrenaline dump after, but I talked to neurologists after, and they're like, no, that doesn't really add up. So I think it was that, but yeah, I remember it was one of the weirdest experiences in my life because I've never done any drugs. I've never drank a sip of alcohol in my life, like anything like that. So I've never had experience where I don't remember what took place, so there's sort of like I gave this really nice eloquent post-fight speech, and I get out of the cage, and I remember my first memory was I woke up with a title belt in my lap, and I thought I was in a good dream, but I'm like, this is crazy. I remember talking to the guy next to me. I'm like, is this a dream? Like I just won? Like was it kickboxing? Like you have MMA gloves on, man. Like look, and it was one of those things where it was really it was a kind of a surreal experience in that way, and maybe it was that adrenaline overload that like added to it because it's such a surreal experience. But I've done a lot of like really advanced neurology training like since then, and that's sort of helped my game as well.
Isn't that kind of fascinating though? It's almost like playing an instrument. Like you've kind of, I don't know how you want to phrase it, but in some way you're knocked out, concussed.
No, I was like, in a sense, it was like I was unconscious and I won the fight.
But you still knew to
the fight, and you see in parts of the fight where I'm not doing stuff I wouldn't normally do, but I remember I was on top of him, like double hand slamming him, like you'll see it if you go on my Instagram. But it just looked like I was in a blind rage almost. You know what I mean? But still using my technique. But I remember my coach said after, well, that's why you drill, and so deep in your psyche that you could wake someone up from the middle of the night and like tell them to do 10 sprawls and they know how to do it. You know what I mean?
It reminds me of like the older folks who like battle horrible diseases like Alzheimer's and stuff, and then but you give them a guitar they used to play, and they can suddenly do it because they had all those
activate. And that's part of it too. Is like I go to this place, Neurological Wellness Institute in Boca Raton. Dr. David Traster, he's done a lot of work with me, and it got me to the point where like some of my reactivity stuff is even better than like MLB players that go there as well and stuff. So, that's been like, but he helps build a lot of those neural pathways that have that sort of brain-body connection, that like mind-brain connection. So like some of the things he's had me do, if you go on my Instagram, there's crazy videos of me going on this, like I think it's called a gyro spin, and they spin me around while I'm trying to shoot lasers across. And another thing is like they have this sort of like circuit thing where you press a color as it expands like to another color. So it's sort of these like neurovisual. It almost looks like video games on these big screens, but they're really testing your cognitive ability and stuff, and he's helped me a lot with like some of the state of their art training, and so that's another thing that I take into account because I know how much of a mental fighter I am with my fight IQ. That's like I'd say my biggest strength almost. So to me, keeping my brain healthy and being able to be outwit my opponent is, I think, like really one of the most important things, because when it comes down to it, a lot of us are pretty similar athletes, even at the highest level, these are all like elite world-class athletes. So what separates you is your the way you think, the way you like take in data, the way you not process it, and then the way you have a mental toughness to get through whatever's happening. So
Crazy.
It's more of a mental sport than anything. I'd say it's a more mental sport than almost any other sport, because you can, I think, like like someone from a young age to become a really maybe good quarterback or like a good figure skater if you just like drill it, but you sort of have to have something different. Like it's almost like a fighting spirit, like to become a fighter, because even if you know everything, that doesn't necessarily make you a good fighter. And I've seen that a lot in gyms. Like I've seen very talented people, way more athletic than me, like not do as well, and it's more of a mental part. Yeah.
Well, and the other aspect of this sport is there's nobody. I mean, you have a team, but it is you. I mean, your problem solving out there is it's on you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which makes it tough too.
Yeah.
Crazy. Again, Lucas Rosa joining us here. Final few minutes with him. He's going to fight Saturday night up in Vermont. If you can't get up there, go stream it, because the stuff is very exciting. And Lucas is undefeated going into this, so it's a very exciting night for him. And he says this should be a good one. So if he says it's going to be a good one, it should be a good one.
Yeah, it will be.
It will be. What's the? I watch a lot of these pros. Actually, here's another reference from Joe Lozon, who's coming up twice in the show. It's what you just mentioned about the whole. You won. That went better for you than it did for Joe. Joe told me a story about how he went to Japan, I think it was, for a fight. And I don't know why I remember. I know why I remember it, but it was years ago he told me this story. But he takes the flight, does it over there. It's a whole project doing these fights. He's up there in the card, and bell sounds, and like almost immediately, it was like first 10 seconds, took a kick or something, knockout. And he goes, I blacked out, woke up, and I was no longer in Japan or something. Which is like, it just talks to you. I hope I got all the details of that right, but it's something similar to that. And like, it's just such a violent, dangerous sport. I mean, any misstep like that. I mean, he's one of the best fighters probably to ever come through Massachusetts, and he obviously first 10 seconds, And
that's what people don't understand. Like, you can be a really high level in this sport, and there's still those missteps. Like, it happened, and it's one of those sports where it's almost like the most humbling in that way, because like even like almost nobody stays undefeated ever in this sport. It's not like boxing where people can kind of like pad their way into sort of being good enough. Like the sport is too unpredictable. Like you feel it eventually.
Is it almost weird if you're undefeated? Like it's almost like you almost didn't maybe put yourself in a tough enough position or something?
Sometimes. I mean, at the end, eventually, everyone's going for, championship status. So, like, that's really, to me, more impressive as being a champion. Like, my brother's a regional, he's a champion of CES right now, and hopefully going to contend for that. So, like, I really admire that. The fact that he won a world title at his age, and I feel like is at his peak level is really impressive to me. But, yeah, it's one of those things where, like even you look at Khabib, who's like one of the only undefeated, fighters ever. Like he lost in combat sambo many times. He got like smoked. So it's one of those things. If you're really in the sport, like it's you get humbled eventually. It's not quite the same as other sports like that.
What is the best advice Charles has ever given you?
The best advice.
Is it about being in the ring, or is it more like outside the ring training sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's more. I'd say like just I think it's more like about being consistent every day. He's like he gave me a lot of really good, I'd say, advice like in the fight. He's honestly a really good corner for that reason too. Like because I can like feel his presence in a way.
Positive. Yeah. All positive.
Yeah, positive. Yeah. But so I mean, what it is too is he sort of like breaks things down in a very like straightforward, like concept-wise way. Like this is the concept to be the fight. Some people, focus a lot on the particulars, and they do a really good job at that, like at American Combat Gym. But I think he does a really good job of like the concept of how to go into each fight.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that is cool. He and of course, and you're not going to let me in on any actual fights that you guys have had over the years. So there you go. we won't ask you who won. Let me ask you this though: if you mentioned John Jones earlier, Khabib, you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Like if you, I'm just curious because amateurs joke like, I wonder how long I could last if I jumped in the ring with you. You know, like if I jumped in with you, it's probably 5 to 6 seconds. Is that about right?
It wouldn't be long. I mean, that's what normal people would like. Someone was asking.
It wouldn't be long.
Well, some people.
You said that so politely.
Well, like it's just like there's that like no. I'd say everyone has that strong like 30 seconds in them. So sometimes I even try to treat fights like that. I'm like, all right, well, like you let them sort of like do their thing maybe in the beginning, like kind of like just feel what they have. But especially with like I'd say a normal person who's like doesn't have that experience with the adrenaline and everything like that and the chaos of what a fight is, I think I saw a stat something like men overestimate how good they are at fighting. They did a study that's it's almost like I might be construing it, but I think it's like 4,000%. Literally, like they a lot of people don't understand. Like,
come on, I only said 5 seconds for me. It can't be.
No. But people like overestimate like how good they'd be at fighting. Like a lot of males do by like 5,000.
Yikes.
5,000%. So which is I think people really don't understand like the level of MMA fighters. I think. Yeah, one of my friends I think texted me one time, and they said, "Oh, I thought you kind of just went in there and like fought." I'm like, "No, like there's so much concept."
That is not me, my friend. I didn't think that for 1 second.
No, of course.
But so you're a pro now, but obviously you're a young pro, still making your mark. I'm sure you're learning stuff every time you go in the ring.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens like if they were to just throw you in the ring with like a John Jones of the world, or
a John Jones? I mean, my game plan would be very different. I'd be trying to like. I guess, I mean, it'd be a tough thing. I mean, those high level people, like with Charles, the thing is though now, like I'm getting to the point now where it's not like there's nobody who can really just like take me out like that quickly. Like,
gotcha.
Even when I go with like my older brother Charles and like Daniel Marcos, he's a 16-0 pro in the UFC right now. He's like one of the top contenders in the entire world, and even he probably the best fighter from Peru ever. And like I go with him, and I do okay. It's not like anybody at this point. Like I still think that in my mind, like, oh, this guy would just. But it's like no, there's really nobody at that point who would just like level me unless it's sort of an unpredictable freak thing, which is again things happen like that in MMA. So
it's crazy to fathom though, isn't it? Because you probably you have skyrocketed so fast and put yourself in such a good position that like not only can I hang with these guys, I should probably
at some point as my brother says, is like at some point you gotta start beating these guys, man. Like, and I'm like that's one thing he kind of puts in my head, like you have to start at some point, like you have to be. He's like, I want you by the time you get to that point of being in the UFC that you feel like you could make a UFC title run, So like you want to be that good by the time you get there, and that's sort of why I'm taking so many fights so frequently too. Is you want to get that experience the same way I got as an amateur. Some people just take 3 amateur fights, try to move on to pro. Like me, I took 17, 18 so that I would feel ready when the time came,
You don't want to be overwhelmed by the moment when you step in, right?
And you feel everything. And honestly, when you go in the cage, you learn like what works, what doesn't work. So it's one of those things where it's you learn a lot from a fight almost more than.
Do you ever know you got it right before that bell even sounds? You're in the cage, and maybe there's a giveaway. There's something that this guy's tense. He is overwhelmed by the moment. Have you had that moment?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I sort of feel like going into every fight. Like there's something like about when I look someone in the eye, I can tell like what their disposition is in a way. It's like their demeanor, and I can like feel the energy from them, and I'm like, I try to like send the energy back. Like I remember my first fight ever. Actually, one of the things that was like my buddy just fought my first opponent ever as well in their first pro fight. So this guy's now a pro fighter, but it was my first amateur fight at the time. And I remember my coach saying he was talking to Charles, and I just overheard him. My coach Charles McCarthy said, Lucas got in the ring and he told the guy, "I'm gonna F you up," he's like, and I believed him, and I think his opponent believed him too. And I was like, it's something about that I think was funny.
I might take back my lasting 5 seconds in the cage with you. It might not be that long, actually.
It always takes a while to feel things out, but I think like people don't realize the mismatch.
Well, I remember watching a McGregor fight. and maybe you remembered his Aldo. Aldo, yeah. And Joe Rogan had a great call because he's looking at him and he's just going, McGregor just looks so loose, like he's like fluid and loose and ready. And he goes, Aldo,
and that was sort of
looks overwhelmed.
It was sort of those, and the thing people didn't understand, like I was trying to explain to people, I'm like, Jose Aldo, you have no idea how good he is, like before the fight, and then like when I saw, leading up to the fight, like the way the demeanor changed, I'm like, well, McGregor's definitely doing some good psychological warfare, getting in his head to get him that tense, because people didn't understand, like Jose Aldo was the only featherweight champion in the UFC for many years, and like he was undefeated for like over a decade almost. It was like unreal how good he was. Yeah. And then to see, what happened, McGregor knocked him out in 8 seconds, and that's why people think, McGregor is that much high level. It's just, again, MMA is that unpredictable sport, and McGregor had that, like you were saying, that sort of understanding of the psychological part of like, okay, if I get this guy mad enough and tense enough, he's just gonna rush at me, and I'll know, to use my footwork and just be not in that space, let him fall into that trap. And that's kind of a lot of fighting too, and that's a lot of my grappling game now. A lot of my grappling game for a while has been like setting up traps, and Charles does a good job at helping me with that, both Charles McCarthy and my brother. Yeah. But now I'm starting to get to that point where now I'm setting traps and striking too. So that's sort of the next step in the evolution.
You're very dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be a nice kid, but in the ring, it's a different story. So.
I understand, man. Yeah. I wish you all the best luck to Saturday night, Lucas Rosa. He has a big fight up in Bar, Vermont. Probably he'll go on around. You can't really judge these things.
It's tough to know. Maybe 9 o'clock or something like that,
All right, so it's Saturday, December 7th. Battle in Bar. Yeah. Denning versus Lucas Rosa, Matt Denning. Yep. And I know you're excited about this one, so it should be good. If people are going to tune in, what are they going to see from you? I know you're not giving away your game plan, but what's the?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, they're just going to see. They're going to see very smart fighter, but a very vicious fighter. So that's really what it is. You'll see an electric atmosphere too.
Awesome, man. Well, I always enjoy hanging with you, man. Thank you so much for making some time. I know it's getting close to fight time, so I really appreciate you coming in.
Oh, I appreciate it.
You got a million things to do, including visiting your old middle school, was it?
Yeah, middle school. Yeah, no, it's cool. I try to take that intellectual spin on things. My fiance is does we actually went to a sports ethics conference. That was the last time I got a fight call, was at a sports ethics conference.
So okay.
It's one of those things where it's like you never know where you're going to get the fight call at.
I love that about MMA, though. It's a very respectful sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
I try to show people that, like, as vicious a sport as it is, like, watch these guys. You're not going to see many cheap shots. You're not going to see much. I don't know. Maybe you've seen some stuff, but to me, it seems like fighters tend to respect each other.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of respect and humbleness, and I think, that's a part of the sport I try to bring to it, is sort of the pursuit of knowledge aspect, and I think that could get injected a little more into the sport. So that's kind of what my mission is.
Love it. All right. Well, Lucas Rosa, good luck to Saturday night, where I'll be rooting for you. I've been rooting for you all throughout this undefeated streak, man. Congratulations. If you keep winning, you're going to keep coming on this show.
Of course, I will.
Lucas Rosa, always a pleasure. Go watch his fight Saturday night. Should be a good one. Battle in Bar, Denning versus Rosa. Very cool. Always a pleasure. Thank you to May Power, our producer here today, holding down the fort. Sarah Hayden, the boss, is around. Ryan Rothberg, Lily Doucette, I think our small but mighty crew. I think that covers it here in Newburyport. My name is Drew Moholland. It's been live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Thank you, Lucas. See you soon.